Hello and welcome to the New York Jewish Film Festival. The festival is presented by the Jewish Museum and Film at Lincoln Center. I'm Aviva Weintraub from the Jewish Museum, and it's a real pleasure this year to be showing the wonderful documentary film, The Last Chapter of A.B. Yehoshua. And I'm thrilled and delighted that the film's director, Yair Qedar, is here to speak with me today from Israel. Welcome, Yair.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, your film is so interesting and so engaging. I know that you've made a series of films about writers in the Hebrew language. So can you talk about how this film is part of that series?
Sure. This film is number 16 already in what turned out to be the largest documentary project in Israel. It's called The Hebrews. And I'm focusing on biographical documentaries on Jewish writers, mainly Hebrew, but also Yiddish, by the way. We made a film, Black Honey, about Avraham Sutzkever 3 years ago. And film number 15 was about Amos Oz. And film number 16 is about A.B. Yehoshua. And I met A.B. Yehoshua, nicknamed Bully, while shooting the film to Amos Oz. And all of the films in the project are about dead, deceased writers and poets. And he asked me if I'm making films about living ones. And I said no. And then I thought to myself, what am I doing? This is like number one, the Israeli writer, and he's actually offering me to make a film about him. So I took the challenge and I came back to him and I said, please, I'm very interested in doing that. Would you allow me and my camera and my crew to be part of your house? Would you open the door for us and let us participate in what you are going through in the coming months and years, not knowing that it would involve the COVID, for example?
Right. So how much time, over how many months did you work with him?
It's 2 years. I began before COVID. And then I had to change the field because of COVID. You know, he's like in a group of people which are older, is cancer sick, so he's like in a more dangerous group. So I had to save the distance. But on the other hand, I'm living about 1.5 miles from him. So I used to sneak up to his house during lockdowns with the masks, of course. We used to sit in the balcony. We used to talk over the Zooms. And we became some kind of friends during that time. And he was very generous in allowing me to shoot him in these times where he's ill, when he's depressed, when he's not knowing will he continue to write. He was very generous in that, without seeing the film until the last moment. So he trusted me. And I felt privileged that I have the opportunity to document him. He's a fabulous writer.
Yeah, it's clear that you developed a rapport because he comes across as just very sweet and kind and also very relaxed in the film, even speaking about difficult topics. So that's great that you were able to build a relationship with him. I know that in Israel, he really is a superstar writer. And of course, he's very well known here too, and his books have been translated into English and many other languages, I gather. So it's so wonderful that you made this document of him speaking about his life and also about his work. And he seemed very interested in speaking about some of his own books. I was struck that I think he says that his best story is Facing the Forests, which I agree is wonderful. It stood out to me because he's so well known for the novels, you know, for The Lover and Mr. Money. But did you ask him specifically also about his stories, or how did those conversations come about?
You know, I talked to you about his life and loves, about his relationship with his with his family, with his deceased late wife, about his writing. How does he relate? What does he think of his ego as a writer, and also about his career, about the short stories in the beginning and later his novels. What he was saying to the students that in front of the forest, it is his best short story.
I see.
It is not his best novel, but still he thinks that the highlight of his career are two novels, Mr. Money and Molcho. It was called in English 5 seasons, 4 seasons, I think something.
Yes. All
right.
5 seasons.
So he said, I came to my peak was at the age of 40, writing these 2 novels, and ever since I'm going, but he's not serious saying that. And that all the people that love him are divided into these 2 camps, Molcho and the 4th season. And I'm, as a filmmaker, I chose Molcho, by the way. And why did I choose Molcho? Because Molcho is telling the story about a widower, a Sephardi Mizrahi widower. His wife is gone to, he loses his wife to cancer. And then he doesn't know what to do for a whole year. Fall in love or not, going abroad, what's the point of living, what's the point of doing that? And that was something like, even prophetic. He wrote it 40 years ago. That describes, in a way, his life now. He told me when we began to make the film that he's going to cry all the time. He's not going to make it alive to the end of the film. And I'm glad those 2 things did not happen. He made it.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. And I was, you're showing also the David Grossman film.
Yeah.
And I was doing the Amos Oz film. So, this is a trilogy of the first line, the 3 tenors, great tenors of the greatest times of Hebrew literature.
Yes.
And it's very interesting to see how those 3 writers think of their art, what is literature to them. And Bully, Abi Yehoshua, represents the modest attitude. It doesn't think there's anything holy or too inspiring or something bigger than life in literature or in art. Yes, he's a factory worker. He goes every day to the study to write. There's nothing special about literature above other arts. And I think this humble approach allowed us as viewers to like him more, because he's so humble and modest. It's so frank. Also about his, his body, his disease, death, getting old. So I didn't make a biography. I made a film about the last chapter of a person which is very alert, very vivid, very honest about himself, about the last chapter in his life. Also, please see that it's the last chapter, but after last chapter we can have an epilogue. So it's not the end, and we chose the name together. So
I was wondering about that. Yeah, for sure, an epilogue. And it's a kind of a big surprise in the film when he writes one more book. So the only daughter, right?
Yes. It's not in the film, but about 5 years ago, he met a young researcher who did a PhD about how he's well-known, why he's so popular in Italy. And he's a superstar in Israel and Italy for some reasons. And she told him her life story. And that became his new novella he was writing during the film. It came out as a short novel in Israel and in other places in Italy. I don't know, perhaps in the States also. It's called The Only Daughter. And more surprisingly, now he writes and completed another novella.
Wow.
So, the fountain is rejuvenating. I'm talking to him every week, and every week is in Haaretz article about politics, about memories from his art and literature. Someone writes about him. He publishes something. So he's like very edgy, very on top of things, very, very, very much alive. I told him, please make some room for the younger people.
It's very interesting when he speaks about his own background and not wanting to be like a poster child for for all Moroccan Jews, for instance. And yet at the same time, many of his books are so historical, but perhaps less about his own personal background, cultural background. I don't know, could you speak about that a little bit?
It's interesting to see that he talks about his mother going to a nursery house for elderly people and ask, where are you from? He said, my father is Italian. She cannot say Moroccan because then she thinks you did not take her to this exclusive nursery for elderly people. And it has something similar of that sort, that if he becomes the Mizrahi, the Sephardi writer, he will not be the Israeli writer. And there is a competition. Who is the Israeli writer? David Grossman, Amos Oz, or him? It's very interesting to see that in the early 90s, Amos Oz writes the autobiographical book, A Tale of Love and Darkness, which is this story that combines his biography and the biography of the country. So this is the Israeli book. A.B. Yehoshua at the same time writes, it's called Shlichuto Shel HaMemuneh L'Yachasei Enosh, about a person who goes to Romania to find the traces of someone lost in Paris.
We showed the film.
Yes,
the Human Resources Manager.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes.
They go to Romania to.
They go to Romania. So
yeah,
this is like the completely not biographical. So he had to find ways how to conduct his identity, which is claimed to be the Israeli writer. So what did he do? He wrote about those roots in his own terms, in Molcho, in Mr. Money, which is an alternative history of Zionism, in A Journey to the End of the Thousand, goes back 1,000 years earlier. So he has to conduct his career. It's also interesting to see he goes with his father to Agnon, the Jewish Israeli writer, Nobel Prize winner. And Agnon tells him, do not write about your Sephardic background. Now, Bully understands that if he will do it, he become, a segregated, a ghettoed writer. But who listens to what Agnon has to say? His father. His father becomes a writer after this meeting. He writes 11 books. About the Sephardi background and folklore in Jerusalem. But who knows about the writer? So Agnon was wrong, and Bully was right in writing. The short stories are more political and universal. The novels are mostly universal, and he had to be very wise in order to become this all-Israeli universal writer, which he did. He was successful in doing that. And he had to struggle and find very interesting paths in how to deal with the identity with the contradictions. He said, I'm not a nostalgic person on the one hand. On the other hand, looks is how nostalgic he talks about his past, his mother, his father. So he had built-in contradictions, which is very interesting to observe. Another thing which he does, which is very charming, I think, is the relationship between the personal and the political. There is a scene when he washes the dishes, and he talks about his wife. She didn't want to wash the dishes, so he had to do it instead. And then he had to be, wise, but not just. He sought harmony. He chose harmony. He does the same things going to Ramallah. Going to Ramallah, he couldn't take him with a cancer treatment, had to take a day of the treatments. Going to Ramallah, what does he do there? He tries to find harmony, to offer a solution that combines his wishes and the Palestinian wishes to leave the country in order with some harmony before he goes on. And that's something beautiful, because he feels responsibility to the Israeli dream, to his Israeli identity, while seeking harmony.
Yeah, absolutely. And my impression is he's been consistent with that since he started writing, since he started public speaking. He's very frequently speaking about peace. And in your film, he says that he has a deep fear for Israel. I think it must be a troubling time for him.
Well, trouble in time, that's like everyday life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And every day is a traveling day here. And he said something to me very honestly. It's not in the film. He said, the generation before us of writers were not less talented than us. But Amos Oz and I were lucky to have the 6 Days War. That we were pro-peace and protesting against the Israeli government. We were embraced by all liberal and cultural circles in the Western world. And we got a megaphone. We got dozens of countries wanted us, and we still, enjoyed this exposure. So he became a more successful writer because of his politics. But I'm not saying that the politicians are not honest. They are honest, but Amos Oz and him was very, very lucky in this sense because more people read them. And while you read the books, they're not anti or pro-peace, they're very deep novels about the human condition. So everybody that gets to read them is profiting, is earning a very good book.
Yes, absolutely. I think the contradictions that you spoke of before is what makes him such an interesting character, such an interesting human being. I feel like even though he has a part of him that's, as you said, very modest, maybe even self-effacing, he's very strong, right? And I think from an early age, like who could turn away from advice from Agnon when they're a young writer? To me, that shows a strength and a belief in what he was doing.
It is very, very committed to his career, to his art. He's very, very serious. I appreciate that people that are very serious about the work. A meeting, a time is a time, commitment is a commitment. He takes his work and his project very seriously. I told him, you don't have a name actually. You have several names. You call Buli, you call Aleph Bet Yehoshua, Avraham Bet Yehoshua, Avraham Gabriel Yehoshua. So you're a person without a name, but you work all the time for this AB Yehoshua. And he has this flat, big apartment in a tower overlooking Tel Aviv. He's alone there, and he governs his career. There's 30, 40 phone calls every day. People are coming. Wow, he conducts this small factory of AB Yehoshua. And sometimes he has inspiration and then goes to the study and he writes a little bit and then he's, start to laugh because it's funny or to cry because it's sad. It's charming.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And I think it keeps him alive. He told me that writing now, he wants to finish the novella. For the new novella, there's another novella. So I admire that, some people say I go 65, 70, I go to pension, I go to Miami, I go to Caribbean. He go in the morning and he keeps on working and he enjoyed that very much. He's very devoted to it and very serious about it.
As we say in Yiddish, zum lange Jahren, he should live a long life.
Yeah.
We hope. The scene, the shot at the end of him standing on his terrace, you really get the sense, as you said, of him surveying the kingdom. At the same time, it is a little heartbreaking as he becomes smaller and smaller as the camera pulls away. How did you decide to create that shot?
It was part of the trailer. And I thought, the building is so, it's like a lonely tower in the middle of small buildings in an area of parks. So that will be a beautiful composition, a beautiful shot. And then we did the shot several times. And yes, that's like the princess locked in the tower on the one hand, yes. But he's not locked in the tower. He has the freedom of imagination. He enjoys being alone. He climbs on new mountains all the time. is not a captured lady in the in the tower, but
Yeah,
it is
amazing.
there is some sadness, of course. This is the last chapter. It's getting harder. You know, the end is knocking on the door. But what are you doing about it? Is not depressed? Yes, he's not angry. He's not solving last resentments. He works, continues to publish, and he's very happy to talk about his books, to talk about himself, to meet new people, and try to fix the situation in the Middle East. So that's like good medication.
Yeah, a never-ending challenge.
Never-ending.
Also very beautiful in your film are the animations. Can you speak about those?
Two senior actors are reading the literary passage. So I took the 20 books. I chose about 11 passages, sampled from the variety of all of his work, short stories, novels, early and late. And the two actors read those passages. And Erez Gavich, who is the animator and designer, he's coming from Bezalel school. He works in Bezalel. So he did watercolor, very gentle watercolor drawings with the very little gentle movements. So very few elements are moving and the camera is moving. So it's a place to, you know, to meditate, to listen. If something happened in the scene, so you can relax during that, listen to the music and poetry in the words, in the readings. This is not poems, but the music. So this is like the spa area of the film.
I'm sorry, the what of the film?
The spa. The spa.
The spa.
The relaxation.
Yeah, the relaxation.
Like, yes, but it also you think where the text from, where are they taken from? How did he predict what will happen? How much of a varied writer he is, and you see the artist, and the animation supports the music and the rhythm of it. This is window to his art, to see how much of an artist he is in writing this. He liked the passages very much. He liked the film very much. I didn't know what will happen because of the Ruby Rivlin scene. In the beginning of the film, there is a scene with Ruby Rivlin. They're talking to each other, but someone talks a little bit more than the other.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if it's a bit rude or not. And I don't want to be rude in my films. And I didn't know what to do. So I showed the film to Bully. He said, it's okay. And then in premiere, I sat them together. So they sat together and it was okay.
Yeah, no, it's very sweet. And also very beautiful is the song that you close with, Laila, Laila. How did it come to you to use that? It's such a nice and gentle way to kind of take us out of the film.
Liora Rivlin, who also does the narration, the literary passages, and so this is part of her show. She's not a real singer; she is a fantastic actress, and she has, this elderly cabaret theatrical. She has this beautiful emphasis, yes, that she puts a special accent of. Very experienced actresses, and what's especially beautiful about it is usually it's a very sad song, but it is known for a very pop and happy design. Usually it's known. So we took off the design, the sound design, and her son actually engineered a very sad and piano. So the music became sadder, the words are sadder. But then towards the end of the film, it is too sad, and the film is not that tragic. So Aviv Aldema, who is the sound designer, decided to add the whistle. And the whistle in the end, during the war, he gives it, a humoristic, like with you shouldn't be that sad. It's a little bit funny.
Yeah. That's exactly what it conveys. It's really works very, very well. I guess just in closing, I want to say how grateful we are that you joined us for a Zoom Q&A, how sorry we are that because of a COVID-related travel restrictions, you're unable to come to New York for the in-person screenings. But we hope the world will get better, and we'll see you another time.
I'm glad my film is in good hands. All the best for the North American premiere of the Bully film. I will call him later and tell him about the screening and the talk. And I wish you a successful screening. And it was lovely talking to you. And we'll meet again in the coming years with new films from the Hebrews Project.
Amen. Thank you very much. And please convey to, I can't say bully, to Mr. Yehoshua that we love and respect him here.
I will tell him that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.